And welcome back to another video. My name is Jake the Genealogist, and in today's video, it's going to be a bit of a continuation from the last video. If you haven't seen that yet, there'll be a card in the top right of this screen, so you can click on that and see what I talked about last time. But if you have, then you know that today we're going to be going over the top 5 presidents according to that presidential index that I talked about last video. So let's jump into it. And one more thing to note before I start the list is that I didn't pick the order of any of these presidents. It was all picked by the index that I talked about in the last video. Let's get a move on it. And coming in number 5 spot, we have our very first president, George Washington, coming in with a score of 1,200. Now, I for the most part agree with this pick. He's definitely one of our top 5 best presidents we've ever had. And most people tend to think that as well, besides me. So it's a very agreeable pick, not controversial. And there's many things to back this up. I mean, he did many great things during his presidency, and he's remembered as a founding father and a very important person in our country's history. Alright, moving on. And coming in at number 4 is the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, also known as FDR, who got a score of 1,250. Now, once again, I agree with this pick. He's definitely one of the best presidents we've ever had in our history, and he's did many things, and rightly so. I mean, he very much helped us out of the Great Depression. He signed many bills and passed many laws that helped modernize our country. And, I mean, he got elected 4 times. You have to be a pretty great and pretty popular president to be elected that many times. So, yeah. Moving on. And coming into the top 3 with the number 3 spot, we have the president, Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, getting a score of 1,800. Now, this is a pretty obvious pick. Good old Honest Abe. You have to put him on a list of the best presidents. I mean, keeping our country together during the Civil War and all that stuff. I mean, it's no wonder he's recognized as such a great president. I mean, if you're a good enough president that you have your own memorial in Washington, D.C., you have to be considered pretty darn good. Moving on. And coming in with the number 2 spot, we have our 26th president and 5th cousin of a previous one I mentioned, Theodore Roosevelt, getting a score of 2,400. Now, I definitely agree with this pick, and I think it's quite interesting that they put him this high, because from most lists I've looked at, he hasn't gotten this high of a score, but I definitely think he deserves it. He did so many things for our country. I mean, I'm a big fan of national parks, and he instituted that national park system, which is one of the best things in our history. I love that Ken Burns series, by the way. And he did many other things. He was just a great leader, and our country prospered during his time. Moving on, then. And coming in with the number 1 spot, we have our 3rd president, Thomas Jefferson. And he got a final score of 2,700. Now, I both agree and disagree with this pick, and here's my reasoning behind it. So, he did many great things during his presidency. For example, he set out the Lewis and Clark expedition, one of the most famous expeditions in our history. He gained Louisiana territory and really kind of helped us expand westward, to expand our country. And outside of that, I mean, obviously he was a founding father who wrote our Declaration of Independence and did many other great things like that. But he also did some bad things. Like, first of all, he was a slave owner, something that Abraham Lincoln, who I just previously mentioned, was not. He was not a slave owner. And even though Thomas Jefferson thought slavery was morally wrong, he still ended up owning an entire plantation with slaves working on it. So it just goes to show. And he also did some bad things like passing the Embargo Act, which was kind of one of the main causes of the War of 1812. So he did some bad things too. Overall, I would have put him a little lower on the list. I would have maybe put Abraham Lincoln as the number 1 or Teddy Roosevelt as the number 1 and put Thomas Jefferson down at 2 or 3. But overall, pretty good choice. Alright, let's go to a wrap-up. So, overall, I found that I agreed with all 5 of the picks that the Presidential Index made, and even though I might have put them in a slightly different order, I still think that all 5 of these presidents deserve to be in the top 5 and recognized as the best presidents we've had in our history. Here's a couple interesting patterns I noticed. One is that all but one president, that being FDR, are on Mount Rushmore. All of the other 4 are on Mount Rushmore. And another pattern I noticed is that 3 of them had their own monuments in Washington, D.C., that being George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Thomas Jefferson. And I believe Teddy Roosevelt even has his own island named after him, just off the coast of Washington, D.C. I may be mistaken. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this really quick video, and I'll be coming out with the worst presidents pretty soon, too. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all later. Bye.